Welcome back. You are tuned in to Salam Media with myself, Salalo Makwidiri, on the Wednesday edition of News and Views. And we'll be shifting our focus in a bit to the ongoing war against Palestine and against Gaza, perpetuated by the Israeli occupying forces. And we'll be chatting to Brother Baha Hilo. He's a Bethlehem-based activist and educator, and we'll be getting insights on the latest coming out of Palestine. I think there's been a recap of recent developments, and here's what you need to know. In the last 24 hours, at least 4 people have been confirmed killed and 12 injured by an Israeli airstrike on a home in Beit Lahia. This is in northern Gaza, according to local media. The Israeli military has arrested 5 Palestinians amid intense clashes following a raid on the occupied West Bank city of Jenin. This is according to local media reports. The Israel's military has alleged, without providing any proof, that a Doctors Without Border staff member was killed in an Israeli drone strike in Gaza City was a Palestinian fighter. The MSF has called the killing of their colleague cynical and abhorrent, saying the 33-year-old physiotherapist and father of 3 was on his way to work at a clinic when the Israeli military strike killed him and 5 other people, including 3 children. And we'll be speaking about just the situation on the ground with Baha Hilo. He's an educator and activist who's currently based in Bethlehem and is joining us via StreamYard. Assalamu alaikum, brother Baha. Jazakallah so much for giving us your time.
Salam alaikum, Salilo. It's always a pleasure to speak to you, brother.
First and foremost, can you provide with us an overview of the current conditions in Gaza, especially in light of the recent Israeli strikes on evacuation centers and camps for displaced people, which is looking like it's now the new targets. They are now, looking for displaced people. We saw what's been happening in Khan Yunis also, where people are seemingly trying to run and find refuge. These are now seemingly the targets of the Israeli occupying forces.
The Israeli genocide, if you remember, started by targeting the city of Gaza in the north, and they turned that place into rubble that is continued to be destroyed by famine, where there is no safe space for Palestinian civilians in the north. They took that to the middle towards Khan Yunis, where they continue to blow up people's houses and neighborhoods and quarters and so on. All the Palestinian displaced persons who managed to escape to the town of Rafah, which is about like 36 square kilometers, with more than 1.5 million locals and displaced persons. And right now, the Israelis are obviously like attacking Palestinian civilians in their displaced centers, in their tents, and so on. The Israelis have clarified what their objectives are, which is like to murder as many Palestinians as possible. And now those Palestinians are found in masses in refugee centers and shelters run by the UN and a few other local initiatives. The Israelis over the past 2 days have bombed like 5 of those shelters, murdered countless number of people. So Israel uses murder in the south and to cover the famine that they are orchestrating up in the north, and the continued bombardment that and never stopped for the past 251 days. In a way, the Israelis are like murdering Palestinian civilians, and they all the time they accuse Palestinian civilians for being somehow. So Israel murders civilians, attack refugee shelters, and then accuse Palestinians and those shelters of being responsible for the bombs that are being brought upon them. I just want to bring your attention to a fact where so far, up until 4 days ago, the state of Israel managed to drop more than 79,000 tons of explosives on the top of the Palestinians, murdering more than 38,000 Palestinians, and we still have more than 10,000 Palestinians who are missing because of this ongoing genocide. Obviously, they are not going to stop, and obviously, they got into another stage that we found them doing, whether it's in Gaza or in Khan Yunis. and now in Rafah, which is blowing up residential neighborhoods.
mm,
And that is not happening in the east of Rafah, but it's actually happening in the west of Rafah, which means that the east of Rafah has been leveled, and the Palestinians have nowhere safe to go and escape from, whether from anything that is falling from the skies, whether it's bombs or it's like useless kind of aid. We had Palestinian refugees in a tent that were also did not have a bomb falling on them, but had this kind of like uh, mindless and stupid form of aid that is carried out by few countries, where they just
mm,
parachute aid on top of people, which results also in the murder. So the situation that's going on is a situation of genocide, this situation of Israeli savagery that is has been maintained by the state of Israel and its allies for more than 8 months now.
And I think what's really starting to get to a lot of people, and I think a lot haven't yet understood it yet, is how the Israeli genocidal forces are now starting to use famine as a way to kill the people of Palestine and people of Gaza. I read a report from an organization called Mercy Corps recently, and it has described the situation in the report that one in a third of the population in Gaza is essentially picking through trash to survive. Can you elaborate on the humanitarian challenges faced by the people of Gaza? Because it's so simple sometimes, to not focus on that and focus on just the bombs that are being dropped. As much as that is important and needs to be noted, there's also one side of the strategy of the Israeli occupying forces, where it's just starve them to death. That's it. Because we can't bomb all of them, we can't shoot all of them, we'll starve them to death. Can you elaborate on that? How famine is used as a weapon?
Okay, food has been used as a weapon by the state of Israel since the beginning, since the beginning of the existence of the state, food and water and so on. A war criminal who serves as the Israeli Minister of Defense right now, he said it from the very beginning that there will be no food, no water, no electricity, and so on and so forth. So they decided to use like civil infrastructure, food, and water as a weapon in order to eliminate the population in Gaza. Since the very beginning, it was very, very clear, and right now it's happening. So the state of Israel have shifted from its savage policy towards Palestinians in Gaza that they introduced in 2005, which is diet, putting people on diet, which means allowing certain amount of calories into that death camp or concentration camp. And now they are moving to like even the 2000 plus calories that they were allowing before October is now going to nearly zero. It's not that the state of Israel actually has a problem with food supplies. We have tons of food supplies that are provided by different humanitarian agencies that is being blocked on the border of Gaza, sitting there in tanks to simply expire because of the heat and the sun and so on. Who prevents that aid from going on? It's the state of Israel. Why? Because they use food and water as a weapon in order to obliterate and eliminate the civil population that remains in Gaza. Please understand that the conditions that Israel have been imposing on the population of Gaza since October have been like conditions that aim at one thing and one thing alone: punish every single person of the 2.3 million Palestinians and wish that they will die. So they will keep us away from water, they will keep us away from food until we starve to death. Because it looks much better for Israeli savages and Israeli criminals if a Palestinian dies out of starvation and dies out of thirst than if a Palestinian is murdered by Israeli bombs, which they actually used up to 79,000 tons of those bombs. Those are the equivalents of nearly 6 of the atomic bombs that the U.S. used in Hiroshima. Like
mm,
so
mm,
for the Israelis, they use everything in their disposal, and they are not ashamed of it. Like the war criminal that serves as the Israeli Minister of Defense have said that this is exactly what they are going to do. They are preparing their allies and supporters to defend them. You know, when they use food and water as a weapon, when they starve people to death, when they prevent people any access to any normal and natural need. On top of food and water, you are talking about destroying and bombing people's shelters so that they have no conditions of basic survival. They prevent people access to medication. They have bombed every single hospital that we have the uh, in the area of Khan Yunis all the way to the northern part of Gaza. Right now, Palestinians in the north of Gaza, they have no food whatsoever. You go to the
mm,
shops and markets, there is nothing left for people to purchase, nothing left for people to eat off, nothing left for people. It's a miracle that Palestinians who survive in Gaza are still able to breathe after using more than 79,000 tons of explosives to throw it on top of them.
And
It's a
you
miracle.
speak. It's definitely a miracle, and speaking of a miracle, it was a miracle that the people of Gaza survived the harsh, brutal, cold winter without the necessities that you've mentioned. But right now, it's summer. And nowhere in Gaza is hotter than Rafah. At the territory in the southern border, along the edge of the Sinai Desert, in the summertime, where the daily temperatures average in the mid 90s. It's summer right now, and you mentioned that there isn't any kind of water, there isn't any kind of food. Just paint a picture for us about how
So,
the people are surviving.
in winter, it rains. So God provides you with some water, you collect some of it and you drink it. There is like barely any access to like the water network have been like bombed by the state of Israel. The already like up until October 7th, like Israel have contaminated nearly 97% of the available water resources in Gaza. Like if
Mm,
you look at just footage, search for footage about the water crisis that people are going through, where there is barely water for people to drink. You know, the World Health Organization actually suggests that for regular survival, you need access to nearly 110 liters of water per person per day. People barely get a liter if they were lucky, you know? And in the heat of the summer, like people will suffer through, uh, the denial of access to what you need more water for your drinking and for your survival in the summer much more than in winter. The only
mm,
water available in Gaza now is seawater. If people drink seawater, they will die, and that's one of the things the state of Israel is forcing people uh, to do. One of the things that Palestinian Muslims in Gaza usually do in situations like this is that they fast. You
mm,
know, and
mm,
then many Palestinians like fasting like Ramadan, because if you're not able to drink, just do that form of worshiping and hope
mm,
for the situation to kind of like change by a divine intervention.
mm, mm,
Because honestly, like what humanity has done to the population of Gaza is what have been watching it dying over and over and over again for 8 months. And we, as Palestinians, are supposed to understand why humanity is failing us. We have to understand why superpowers are able to provide our oppressor with unlimited source of bombs, but unable to provide Palestinians with limited sources of water, food to survive those bombs. We have to understand the savagery of international community that is led by Western powers, and we have to just watch ourselves being murdered day in, day out. We have to accept somehow that our fate is in the hands of Israeli savages and Israeli war criminals and die in silence.
Mm, mm. I think
Um,
we have run out of time, but thank you so much, Brother Baha, for giving us, just a glimpse and insight on the lived realities of the people of Palestine, the people of Gaza. I think, we don't have to let the conversation die, particularly us here in South Africa. We'll continue talking about Gaza, we'll continue talking about Palestine. Something has to give, whether it takes 10 years, 15 years, 100 years. The people of Palestine have proven over and over and over again that they are a resilient people, and we hope and pray that that resilience continues and they continue to inspire the world, and the world doesn't forget talking about them and raising awareness and questioning their own governments about their actions and sometimes inactions when it comes to the people of Gaza and people of Palestine. Really appreciate you giving us your time. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam alaikum, brother. Thank you.
There you have it. There was Brother Baha Hilo giving us insight in the lived realities of the subhuman conditions that the people of Gaza are being subjected to by the Israeli genocidal forces. And as I mentioned there, this is not the time to let the conversation die. This is a time, understood as human nature. You'll have fatigue. You might want to protect your own mental health because of all of the images and all of the videos and all of the voice notes and messages that you might be consuming. But imagine what the people of Gaza are going through. If you have the luxury to say, I want to protect my mental health and my own sanity because what's happening in Gaza is getting to me, I'm feeling depressed. Imagine, just take a step back and saying the people of Gaza don't have the luxury to unplug. This is their lives. What you're running from and saying that's traumatizing you, this is what they wake up to day in and day out. Continued bombardment, the siege, the famine that's being used deliberately by the Israeli occupying forces. This is their lives and they can't escape it. Going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be speaking to Aslam Kota. He's a cricket commentator and analyst, and now we'll be speaking about the T20, where the Proteas will be facing Afghanistan. More on that after this.
You South African, of course.